Are there any houseplants that you struggle to keep happy or even keep alive? Often when we see these houseplants on social media or even in these YouTube videos, they look their best, and that can make us feel a little bit rubbish if we're struggling with the same types of plants. So I thought I'd do a bit of a real video this time showing you 7 different houseplant varieties that I really struggle with. Even though I feel I'm fairly experienced with houseplants and know what their care needs should be, I still struggle with these varieties and find them really challenging. So I would love to know if you have the same challenges with the varieties that I run through, or even if you've got your own problematic plants, then let me know in the comments below what they are. Some of these plants are even meant to be easy care plants, so I don't quite know what I'm doing wrong or why they're not happy. Is it me? Is it the house? Who knows? Thankfully I've got some exceptions to the rule, and I'll show you those in the video today, but only time will tell how long I can keep those plants happy for. So we'll start alphabetically, as I was holding an Alocasia in the start. This is an Alocasia Pink Dragon, and this one seems to be doing quite well so far, and that I must have found the right spot and maybe cared for it in the right way for now. These types with the thinner leaves, the larger leaves, they're generally quite delicate as well, so I find they often tend to go a little bit crispy or sometimes get attacked by thrips, as thrips absolutely love these. So if you ever get thrips in the collection, look out for your Alocasias, because once they get in there, it's almost end game. Because once they start to sort of damage these leaves, they can very quickly sort of look really untidy and then fall off or droop or drop off. And because they don't have many leaves on them to begin with, it can be really challenging once you start to lose those leaves. The good thing about Alocasias, I find, is the corm can still be good, so you can still bring them back if you cut it right back down, and you might get new growth or even wait until the next spring. So it's not an all is lost situation. This one's doing well so far, and there is a bit of crisping on this leaf though, so only time will tell, as I said, how long I can keep this one happy. This one, however, is an Alocasia lautabachiana, or was, should I say, and this had really nice, long, tall leaves with a sort of sawtooth shape to them, so it looked really lovely. But then I noticed this one, as if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll notice I did have a problem with thrips earlier this year. This one did get attacked by the thrips, and as it, again, only had a few leaves, once they started to get in there and started to damage the leaves, it was only a sort of a countdown until the leaves started to go, despite trying to treat it. With this one, I'm hopeful that if I cut it down, the corm will be okay and I'll be able to get those leaves back or new growth back, but we will wait and see. This is what usually happens to Alocasias in my care. And the last one I've got is this one. These ones I find a little bit easier because they've got thicker leaves, so they don't seem to be as susceptible to pests or to, maybe if it's humidity or whatever it might be, the drying of the leaves, because they have thicker leaves. So this one's doing fantastically well, although this is my 3rd or 4th Amazonica that I've had, because all of the others have gone the same way as that lautabachiana. So this one I've had for quite a few months, maybe even a year now, so this one is doing well, and fingers crossed it continues to do well, just like this one, but we shall wait and see, and hopefully they don't end up as they usually do, like the lautabachiana. So moving on to see, we've got Calatheist, and this wouldn't be a problem plant list if Calatheist did not appear on it. So these are notoriously challenging plants, so I don't feel too bad about having challenges with these, because they are quite challenging plants to look after. So these ones, they look so wonderful with all of the colours and the patterns you can get them in, but they are notorious for the dreaded Calatheist crisp, where the leaves start to go crisping, and once that happens, it's just a countdown until the leaves need to be removed, and then depending on how quickly it produces new leaves or whether or not they go crispy, they can very quickly start to look untidy and start to look a bit bare if you're trimming those crispy leaves off. So this I just find quite challenging to look after. However, this one, while I've generally stopped buying Calatheist because I know they tend to go down the same route, this one was only £2.50, so I thought for that price it's nothing lost. If I give it a go, I'll try and keep this happy, and if it does go the same way, again, it's only £2.50 that I've potentially lost. This is one that I bought previously. This is a Calathea network, and this is exactly what I was talking about in terms of once the leaves start to go crispy. This was much fuller, much greener, and then as they go crispy, you remove the leaves, and if it doesn't produce enough new leaves, then you just get a very sparse looking plant, and even these are a little bit crispy too. Usually these ones are quite a bit more forgiving because they're thicker leaves, but this one just went the same way as the others. So there are things that you can do to try and avoid that Calathea crisp and keep them happy, such as high humidity, keeping them amongst other plants, and even the type of water you use, so using rainwater, distilled water, filtered water, as sometimes it can be the chemicals in the tap water, that causes that crisp as well. Whether or not that actually works, I don't know. Only time will tell with this one. How long this will stay predominantly green and not crispy, we shall wait and see. But if you do know the secret to keeping Calatheas happy and you've not had issues with the crisp, then let us know in the comments below, because you'll be helping me out as well as many of the other viewers. So keeping with C, we've got the Chlorophytum comosum or spider plant. You may have recognised it, it's a really popular house plant, and even meant to be an easy to care for or unkillable plant. That's definitely not the case with me, as I've killed many of these This is the latest one I've got. It's doing okay so far. This is the longest I've had one of these alive for. So far so good, touch wood. And this one, just like the Calathea, I thought I'd give it another go. I'm not going to give up on them completely. This was only £3.50 from a supermarket, and it had 3 plants in the pot and even some offsets as well, or some previous offsets to these ones. And I thought I'd give it another go for that price. Then if it does go the same way, I've not broke the bank by trying again. So this one, I think it's definitely a me problem with this one. I find getting the balance of watering right with this one quite challenging. So generally let the soil dry out between watering. Then when you do water it from the bottom or around the soil. Try not to get water on the leaves or in the crown, because they can be quite prone to yellowing, mushiness, rot if they get too much water or sit in damp soil, or if the leaves get wet. So that has been my sort of downfall with these plants previously. I've either let them dry too much and then they've just dried up and died off, or I've watered them incorrectly or let them sit in damp soil maybe, or got water on the leaves, not 100% sure exactly what, but that has then caused them to go mushy and then rot and then die off. So this one, so far so good. I think I found the right balance for it. There were some bits of yellow on the leaves, which I have just removed some of them. It has got some offset on the way, which is hopefully a good sign that it's producing offsets. Usually plants will produce them when they are happy and they're ready to reproduce. Sometimes they can produce them when they are stressed and it's an effort to survive. So hopefully it's the former and not the latter. Hopefully we do have a reasonably happy plant, and these are coming up because the plant is happy, not because it's stressed. But we shall see. But hopefully I've got these so I can try and reproduce these, or propagate these should I say, pop these up separately and keep this going, even if this does meet, unfortunately, an untimely end. So if do you find these challenging at all, or do you find these some of the easiest plants? I'd love to know, again, your thoughts on spider plants. Are they easy? Are they not as easy as people say they are? Let me know in the comments below. So moving on to F and ferns, mainly the delicate types of ferns, so Boston fern, maidenhair fern, even the heartleaf fern for example. These are really challenging, at least for me, to keep happy. I try to give them enough moisture, water, keep them out of direct light, or give them maybe a shadier position where it should be right for them, because that's generally their natural habitat. However, these all seem to go the same way. They start to dry out, they look a bit untidy, just like the Calatheas, and gradually die back. So this one I've actually had for about 2 years. I'm surprised that a bit has been hanging on and has stayed green. However, you can see the rest of it has died off, but for whatever reason, this little bit at the edge has stayed green and it's stayed alive and it's continuing to keep going. So I'm not going to pot it up despite the back of it looking a bit untidy. I'm going to leave it where it is because something, for whatever it is working for this little bit that's hanging on. So I'm going to keep that going as long as I can, but usually they just completely dry up and die off. Other instances of having those is because they're quite compact and cover the soil quite a lot. Even though they like moisture, I have had issues where they've maybe had too much water and then they've gone a bit mouldy and it's just affected the plant and it's just died off that way. Whereas the larger types of plant with the larger, more maybe solid leaves, the aspleniums, bird nest ferns, those sorts of things, these are fantastic. They're so much easier to look after and give you all of this wonderful lush greenery too. So I will generally stick to asplenium type ferns or larger leaf type ferns as opposed to the frilly delicate leaf type ferns, because they all end up going the same way. On to H, the Hyperestes or polka dot plant. This comes in other colours, really lovely bright colours, pink or red. This is obviously the green version. You can see the wonderful white and green polka dot pattern on the leaves. This one is actually doing surprisingly well, and this has really recovered from where it was before. I've actually just noticed it has actually got some flowers on it as well, or had flowered. The flowers have dried up now, but it has also flowered, so hopefully that is a sign of a happy Hyperestes plant. This one did, before I moved the position, lose all of its leaves down the stem, as you can see there, quite bare, and since I've moved it to a brighter spot and then tried to keep the balance of moisture right, it's obviously done something right, because it's grown all of these new leaves. It's starting to grow more leaves where the bald spots are, and it's obviously flowered. So the challenge I find with this is just trying to get that balance right, particularly with the moisture. So now I know the light levels that it likes in my particular setting. The moisture it's quite a thirsty plant, so it likes a lot of water, but equally if you overwater or if it sits in damp soil, it tends to get rot or mouldy and then the leaves drop off and the stems just die off. But equally if you leave it too long without water, it goes crispy and the leaves start to drop as well. So it's trying to find that right balance where it's got a bit of moisture in the soil, but not too much, and that you remember to top that up. So hopefully I've found that balance with this one. This again is one of many that I've had previously that have just not survived. So hopefully this one is on the right track to staying alive, but we shall wait and see over time. Skipping ahead to P for palms. This is for palms in general, so regardless of the variety, Erica, butterfly, Kentia, whatever it is, I generally seem to have the same problem with them, and these are meant to be really easy to care for plants. They generally are from arid areas, so don't actually need that much water, or you can let them dry between waterings. But even though I do that or give them water, this still has slightly moist soil from where I'd watered it previously. However, this is just completely dried out and crispy, and this seems to be the same way that these all go. They gradually start to dry off bit by bit until the whole plant is just a big load of crispy palm leaves. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong, because I feel like I'm giving them the right care, but obviously not. I will generally avoid palms because these ones just don't like it in my house or don't like me. Do you have the same issue with palms, or do you find these quite easy? Let me know in the comments below. And on to S for string of plants in general for different reasons. So I've got the string of hearts here, or Ceropegia woody or woodii, and this one has been very hit and miss. I've had this for about 2 or 3 years, so I've managed to keep it alive at least, but this has gone through periods of looking really bare to looking really full, and just back and forth, and it's been quite challenging just to keep it alive, or at least happy. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is actually just folded some of these over, some of the vines, and pinned them down to get some new growth, and that seems to be working. We've got some new shoots coming off here to fill out the pot a bit. These ones really don't like a lot of water. There is a risk of overwatering these and killing them off. So I think I've just struggled, just like with the spider plant, getting the balance right. So not leaving them too long where the vines then dry off and then they go bare, and not overwatering them so that they actually just die off and go rotten. So this one, so far so good, or so far still surviving. This one is doing okay, but I've also had issues with the string ofs, the more succulent varieties, so the string of pearls, string of tears, string of dolphins, turtles, all of those are maybe a bit more succulent. Again, the risk of not watering them because they don't like too much water because they're succulent plants, but then watering them to keep them looking lush and healthy, but not overwatering them because they're quite compact and they're succulent plants, there is a risk of them, again, causing rot or going mouldy. So I've always had those issues with them where, because of their compact nature, I've always found them to start to go mushy or start to go rotten, then they get really bare, and then it's just, again, a countdown until they're completely dead. So I don't know if you've had the same challenges with string of plants, whether it be the heart or the more succulent varieties. Let me know in the comments below. So out of those plants that I find challenging, are there any that you find difficult too? Or maybe you've got your own problem plants that for whatever reason you just don't know why they don't survive in your care or in your home. I am aware that some of these are down to my own plant care that I just can't get the right balance for. Some of them, no matter what I do, I don't know what it is, whether it's me or my home setting, they just don't like it. So hopefully that is a little bit of reassurance. You'll see there's lots of greenery in the background. There are lots of plants that I can keep alive and can keep thriving and happy. So even if you don't find a variety that works for you or works in your home, or the plant care that you can give it, keep trying different varieties until you find houseplants that do work in your setting and that you can keep alive and keep happy. If you have found this video interesting and you like houseplant related content, then consider subscribing. I'll have new videos every week, usually on a Sunday or Monday. There's loads of videos on the channel already, including all sorts of plant care, particularly for the plants that I can keep alive and keep happy, pest control, propagation, lots of other videos to keep watching if you want to watch plant related content. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below and I'll respond to everyone. And as always, thank you for watching Grow Your Wellbeing.